In this presentation, my goal is to share the knowledge that I have gained about incorporating literacy into the content area, whether that be math, science, history, or even music. When talking about literacy in today's common classroom, there really has been a change of view. We no longer see it as something that you just strictly work on in your homeroom or in your language arts class. It is now seen as something much larger and much more important. Today, it is seen as something that can be incorporated into any subject matter. What has also changed greatly with literacy is the developments in technology. By technology constantly changing and evolving, it has increased the amount of information that we have at our fingertips. It has given us access to new tools that we can use with helping our students develop their skills in literacy and can do it in a way that is more familiar to them. Technology is their world and what they know. So by integrating literacy and technology together, it is a way that we can reach our students and have it be more familiar to them. Along with changing how we see literacy in the classroom, another aspect that has changed is inclusion. Today, inclusion has taken on a much more prominent role, with things such as universal design becoming extremely important in guiding instruction so that we can make our lesson plans accessible to all. Within one classroom, we could have students that are reading at a kindergarten level all the way up to a 12th grade level. This means that it's our job as teachers to challenge our students that are progressing quite fast and work with our students that might be struggling to get them to where they need to be. In regards to our English language learners, they have been quite successful by dividing them into 5 levels of learning. This way, we can categorize our students into certain levels so that we can give them the next set of tools that they need so that they can eventually become fluent with English. Another aspect of inclusion is making literacy student-oriented. By listening to what our students are interested in, we can use that when creating our lesson plans so that our students can become more invested in their education because they are intrigued by what they're learning. Lastly, with inclusion, using things such as ebooks, online videos, and books in Braille to make sure that literacy is accessible to all means that even if students have a disability, they can still partake in the lesson and become successful. There is so much more that goes into literacy than just learning how to read and not have to worry about making sense out of the text. To be successful with literacy now, it means not only being able to read, but write and comprehend. This no longer only goes for text. This also involves students being able to use their tools that they have gained to analyze pictures, song lyrics, graphs, and a variety of other things, and be able to make sense out of it. The reasoning behind this is we want to make our students more well-rounded by giving them the tools that they would have to use in real life. Thus, in return, making them more successful not only in the classroom, but as they pursue a life beyond their 12 years of education. Although literacy focuses on so much more than just having our students be able to read, but now write and comprehend, reading is still vitally important in making sure that our students are successful. The 5 pillars of reading make it so that we can break it down so that our students can take one step at a time to learn how to not only read, but understand the written English language. Phonemic awareness refers to the specifics of being able to identify individual sounds within a word, not necessarily the word as a whole. This is really focusing on students being able to sound out the smallest units of sound within the English language. Because of this, it doesn't necessarily require students to be able to read. But it's fundamental with setting them up for success for becoming good readers. A great way to work on this is creating word lists with words that all start with the same sound, such as bike, boy, or bell. This can easily be done in the music classroom by having students listen to a song and identify the words that start with the same sounds. The same thing can happen with rhyming games. We can create songs that have words that rhyme within it, like math, path, bath, and have students start to identify that even though the words are different, there are the same letters within those words that create that rhyming sound. The second pillar within the 5 pillars of reading is phonics. Phonics has to do with being able to associate the written letters or letter groupings to the sounds of the English language. So that means being able to see the letter B and know that that's the letter B, but sounds like B. And so students have to work on being able to differentiate those two things and know that the letter name is different from the letter sound. A great way to work on this is things such as word scrambles. In the music classroom, what we could do is learn a song about animals with simple names such as cats, dogs, bugs, and then give them a list of letters and they have to sort it out to write out the names of the animals that we talked about within our song. Another great thing that we can use to work on phonics is phonics bingo. So you could make a 9x9 sheet with letters on it, and then you would say the letter sounds, like if there's a J, you would say J, and then they would have to circle it until they get bingo. With music, what could be really fun is if we're learning a song in a different language, which has different phonics, we can play phonics bingo to work on being able to understand how we need to pronounce words in that language. Such as with Spanish, the J sounds more like an H sound. So if I say huh, the students would have to circle J rather than H. The third pillar in making sure that our students can be successful readers is making sure that they have the ability to read and write fluently. This means we want our students to be able to read and write without ever having to take much time to stop and figure out how a word sounds or how it is spelled, and can comprehend text as they read. Much like music, we have to demonstrate how something sounds before our students can model it back to us. The same thing goes with reading fluency. The great way to help students know how reading fluently sounds is to model it for them. So in the music classroom, maybe we're learning about Beethoven. I can bring in a book about him and read it to the class and demonstrate how reading fluently sounds, so that they can get it in their ear and then hopefully be able to model it back to me. When students are reading on their own, a great way to help them get less distracted and stay focused is to use things such as line trackers and word pointers. This helps to eliminate the things that they have to look at and can hopefully help them to read much more fluently by focusing on only one line at a time. The fourth skill that our students need to have to become successful readers is working on their reading comprehension. Now, we have already talked about this some, but what it means is that students will be able to read a piece of text and not only read it well, but be able to know what it is saying. A great way to work on this is bringing books into the classroom. Maybe I bring one in about Louis Armstrong, and after I am done reading, have them draw a picture, write a story, or make a video, whichever sounds most exciting to them, to talk about the meaning behind the story. This way, students can choose their own method of showing their reading comprehension so that they can be successful. Another way to work on reading comprehension in the moment is, as you read, ask questions to the class, even basic ones such as who, what, where, when, and why. This way, you can actively check in to see if the students are comprehending the text as you read. Our final pillar that we are going to talk about is vocabulary. Vocabulary is greatly important with expanding students' knowledge of words, what they mean, and how to pronounce them. A great way to work on building vocabulary is having something such as Word of the Day. In the music classroom, we can introduce new words such as marcato, allegro, forte, piano, so that students can incorporate these new words when discussing music. A great way to work on memorizing vocabulary is actually music memorization. Creating a song that involves the vocabulary that students are working on and setting it to a beat with a tune has proven to help students remember vocabulary much better than rather just focusing on the words themselves. Today's virtual classroom is something we never thought we would see. But because this is what we are living in, technology has become more important than ever to help support our students' education. In the music classroom, two websites that I have found to be very helpful are Quaver Music and Pear Deck. Quaver Music is a fun, interactive website that covers all aspects that would be taught in a general music ed classroom, from understanding the difference between quarter notes and eighth notes, dynamics, and just having fun dances that students can follow along to help get their wiggles out. This is great because it can work both in the synchronous classroom and the asynchronous classroom. With Pear Deck, this is more focused with using it in the synchronous classroom because it's interactive. What's great is that a teacher can create a deck and then send that out to the students so that each student has their own deck and can mess with it. Then the teacher can show how each person has changed their deck, which allows us to play fun games as a group. As teachers, it is our job to acknowledge individual differences in what students might be facing at home or at school that can impact their learning. Something that has become more and more of an issue is that more than 12.6 million students' families as of 2018 are facing poverty. Students who face poverty and the fear of possibly being homeless on average miss around 11 weeks of school. And children living below the poverty line tend to be about 18 months behind with their cognitive development. As teachers, it is our job to acknowledge this and that this is a bigger issue that is undertaking more and more students each year. So, how can we help? As teachers in schools, we should try to provide free breakfast and lunch to children who need it. No child can function if they don't have food in their stomachs. So, by providing that for them, it will help them to be focused and excited to learn throughout the day. Something else we can do is provide free tutoring sessions for students during school time at lunch or after school. This way, students who might be falling behind have the opportunity to get that one-on-one help to make sure that they are staying up to date with their education. Another way we can help is by having fundraisers at schools to help raise money to school supplies to families in need. This way, the students will be able to have everything that they need to be successful, from notebooks to pencils to pens, and is one less thing that they have to worry about hindering their experience at school. Lastly, we just need to be there for our students. As teachers, it is our job to listen to our students and what they need and support them in any way possible. By just being there for them, we can see how much of a difference that can make. In this presentation, we have covered an array of material, from the current status of content literacy, how it has changed throughout the years, instructional strategies for the 5 pillar skills of reading, new technologies that can help support us in our classroom, and how individual differences impact students' learning and what we can do to help. So what does all this mean? Literacy has greatly evolved, and we as teachers need to adapt with it. We can no longer think that there is only one way to teach and that there is only one way to learn. We need to introduce topics and have it be accessible to students by providing them many different options and outlets to show their learning. We also need to work on making sure that our classroom is as inclusive as possible. So no matter what challenges a student might face, whether it be having a disability, coming from a poor economical background, to not being able to hear, we need to make sure that we make our lesson plans as inclusive as possible so that every single student can be successful learners. Another thing we need to do is take advantage of new technologies. The world is full of new websites and new tools that can help us to create a fun classroom. And technology is what students know. So by blending technology with our lesson plans, we can help students understand better by doing it in a way that is more comfortable to them. And lastly, we need to listen to our students. The only way that we can be successful is to have communication between us and our students, to know what they need and to provide them with the tools to be successful then. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you have a wonderful day.